Hi guys, so today's video is going to be both a non-spoiler book review and then a little bit of a spoilery chat for Serpent and Dove. This is a story that follows a young woman named Lou who is kind of on the run from a mysterious past, and she is a witch, and witches are supposed to be burned in their world. People don't exactly approve of witches. The other main perspective in this story is a young man named Reed who is a witch hunter, and he is very much aligned with the church, and through some interesting circumstances, these two end up married to one another. He does not realize she is a witch. She knows he's a witch hunter though, and so she's very much on edge and trying to figure out what to do. I don't normally try to tell people that they should censor themselves or anything like that. I don't really try to tell you if you are or aren't old enough for a book, but I will say that this book is sold and marketed as young adult, and it's not young adult. This is a perfect example of a story that I think is more suited for new adult, but we just don't really have a new adult age range right now in bookstores. So it's definitely a story that if you're gonna go into it, maybe just have that knowledge when you go into it. Our main character, Lou, she's definitely somebody who it would make sense to have her curse as much as she does and have her be more familiar with some of the saucier things in life, because a lot of the times she is getting information from people that work as prostitutes, or she's been living on the streets, so it would make sense that her language isn't super prim and proper. So I do think it served the character. It doesn't feel like it was just thrown in there out of nowhere. But our other character is very much not like that, and any kind of curse word throws him in a fit, and he is very wholesome and perfect and proper, except for the whole let's burn us some witches thing. The story is told in first person point of view, which can be tricky to pull off when you have more than one character as a main character. You have to definitely make sure that the characters have very distinct voices, and I do think that the author did this. It helps that the characters' personalities were so different, but you can say the characters are different, and then showing us that they're different is a totally different thing. And I definitely think that the author showed us that these characters are very different. You can probably gather based off of the premise that the story is set up to potentially have a hate to love relationship between the characters. You have two people from very different worlds, and I won't say in the non-spoiler part whether they do or don't. And I think that's, part of what is intriguing about this book is you're wondering what's gonna happen with these two characters. But I will say that even though there is a romantic, you just kind of figure there's gonna be romance in this book, even though that is in your mind, it's not solely a romance. I know sometimes people, when they're unsure how significant the romance is going to play a role, sometimes they want that. They want just the romance. And then sometimes people are like, please be a subplot. Even though we're set up to maybe potentially have hate to love type of a romance, there are other things going on. Our characters have their own set motivations, and there are other things driving the plot forward besides just the will they, won't they? I do think that anytime you have a book with the potential to be a hate to love relationship, you are going to have some people end up hating the book and thinking the book is very toxic or a terrible representation of what love should be. And I haven't seen too many people talk about this book yet because it is brand new, but I do want to preface, I don't know if I should say I have any opinions on whether it is or isn't. For me, it's fiction, and whatever goes down between the two characters in the book, I personally am not looking to emulate that. Obviously, based off the premise, these two individuals are very different, and they do hate each other at first. They definitely hate each other, so they say and do things to one another that obviously you don't want to advise people to say and do to one another. You don't want to encourage people to treat each other the way they treat each other, or to talk to each other the way they talk to each other. So I do think it's one of those books that a lot of people may end up finding to be, problematic, if you will. But the way I look at it is the setup is these two people not digging each other at all at first, and maybe they won't in the end, or maybe they will, maybe they'll see eye to eye, maybe they will end up actually hating each other more. It's just something that I think it's good to know going in that this is a story that may potentially not be super healthy. I want to replicate this. The closest thing I can compare it to, And I don't normally like making comparisons. In case people haven't read it, then it's not helpful. And if you have read the other thing, I don't want to say it's exactly the same per se. But for those of you that are familiar with Six of Crows and Nina and her love interest, it's kind of that situation where you're like, oh, some people ship them, some people don't. But overall, at the end of the day, it's like, it's a book. I did definitely find the banter between the characters to be very entertaining. I thought the way that they clashed was, sometimes it was hilarious, sometimes it was kind of deep. And I thought that element of the story was really well done. I also felt like this was very entertaining. It was a very entertaining story. It's definitely one that you want to turn the page, I think. But there were a couple of times that the significance of what was happening, or the stakes, those kinds of things, no pun intended with the whole like witch thing. But there was just a couple times that I thought a really significant scene was brought down just a hair because of something maybe the author put in a little bit of humor that I didn't want at that moment. That won't be the same for everybody. But there's only, I think this is the kind of story that for a lot of people, a lot of it is going to be a matter of preference. I want to add too that the setting for this story is very French. And if you like that kind of a setting, it's kind of like a historical fantasy, then that's another reason why you'll probably really enjoy this. I have found I haven't read that many stories that are more French inspired. So I thought that element of the story was really cool. Usually it's just, oh, it's medieval times. It's just something like that. That wasn't really what this was. The magic in the story, because obviously we have witches in this, it feels witchcrafty in that I don't feel like there were set rules and limitations necessarily. I know nowadays a lot of people look for that. They look for, okay, well, what are the boundaries? What can they do? What are the extremes? When do they run out of magic? They're looking for that kind of stuff. And I wouldn't say this book necessarily had it. The magic is different depending on the witch and the kind of witch. And a lot of times they don't even really know what they're capable of. There is one rule for a lot of our witches, which is that you need balance. So it's kind of like equivalent exchange. If you're going to do something over here, then this over here, you got to sacrifice something. So I did like that element. It wasn't just willy-nilly, I can just use magic whenever I want. I am going to go into some spoilers for a little bit, and then I'll do my final thoughts at the very end. So if you want to skip over to that part and not be spoiled, I'll go ahead and have the time up on the screen. But anyway, jumping into spoilers, stop watching if you don't want to be spoiled for anything. There's one character in particular that there's a part of me that whenever this character popped up, it was toward the end of the book, I was kind of thinking, so is this guy just around now? And that would be the guy, I don't know how to say his name, so I'm gonna call him Coco's lover. Coco's lover, that guy. It wasn't that big of a deal. I guess I was just surprised because so much of the story, I was set up to think most people are really terrified of witches, don't like witches, or at the very least they're like, oh no, it's a witch. I'm weary now. And this guy, he's around when they're thinking, we gotta go rescue Lou from all the witches. All of them, basically, like her whole little sect of witches. And he's like, all right, I guess I'll join you guys, because if she dies, I die. And I was like, okay, I mean, I feel like, I guess, kind of funny. And it almost felt like we needed him to be there almost like comic relief, because Lou so often is so over the top and crazy, and she's not around for that part, so we're getting a little bit of him, which I didn't mind. I was down with that. But then at the most serious moment in the book, when Reed goes to try to rescue Lou and the guy just starts singing the dirty tavern song, I did not like the timing of that. I wasn't a fan. It just, I mean, maybe some people will like that part. I don't know. Maybe you loved that part, but I did not like that part. So I didn't love that, but that's okay. It's a preference thing. I didn't care for I didn't need comedic relief at that moment. I felt like it was too deep of a moment for that. And I didn't like that. But I do feel like there were so many other scenes that I definitely really enjoyed. The scene that when Reed finds out that she is a witch, and then he's really mean and it's sad. In that scene, I was expecting him to, you know, question and not know what to do and to freeze up and lock up. But he was super aggressively mean to her at that part. And I weirdly was happy that happened because he has issues. His whole life he's been taught to believe that witches are evil, that they're tricksters, that they are manipulative, and that they have their own goals, and that they're of Satan and all that stuff. So when he finds out that she's a witch, it made sense that he wasn't going to be like, well, I love you and love conquers all. I appreciated that he was upset in that moment. So even though it was annoying and I'm like, dude, be nicer, I did think it was realistic. I do have a question for you guys that have also read this, and I don't know if I just maybe didn't quite know how it worked, but the ring. So the ring can make her invisible, right? That's what it does when she puts it in her mouth. When she went to go rescue her ex-lover guy who was a total D-bag, that guy, when she was like, I have to rescue him, which I actually kind of liked that part of the reason she needed to rescue him was to look out for herself. But anyway, I guess I didn't understand why she didn't just put the ring on. I knew that there were guards around, so she couldn't just open it up and then call it a day and be like, all right, you're free now. But it seemed like everything would have been easier if she was just invisible. I mean, she probably could have been invisible and then gone down there and knocked them out or something. It just felt like she risked a lot by using her magic in the middle of this place filled with these witch hunters. So did I miss something? I felt like there were times she could have used the ring and she just didn't use the ring. The last kind of spoilery thing that I'm curious all of your thoughts is, do you guys think, it was hard, I didn't want to say in the non-spoiler section for people that haven't read it, but I was kind of hinting at it, which is that, of course, because of Reed's background, he's not the most open-minded of people, and I just feel like there are going to be people out there that love this book and just really want them to, like, yeah, get together. But I feel like there are gonna be people that don't like this book and find it to be not good. They're gonna read it and they're gonna be like, this is disgusting. How can people like this? He's terrible to her. I have a feeling stuff like that's gonna happen. I'm gonna put up a little poll. It's too early for me to know if this is what people are gonna think, but it's kind of my prediction, and I'm curious if it's your prediction too, or if you think, no, the author, she did it in a way where most people probably aren't going to have that reaction. I just have a hard time even saying it because I feel like for sure there are going to be people out there that are going to think like, oh, just another macho, gross man, and I don't know. I'm curious your thoughts. Some final thoughts on this book. I think that if you are looking for a story that is, I would say, equal parts, there's a bigger picture type plot. Our characters are in danger. There's some stakes. There's that. And it's also equal part, will they, won't they? Are they going to get together? Then it really is a good combination of those things. I think the author, I think she did a really good job of not making one overpower the other. I think the stakes built as the story went on, as well did the will they, won't they aspect of the story. So I think if you are the kind of person that likes a mix of those things and you like the potential hate to love trope, this is gonna be perfect for you. But I do think that if you're the kind of person that you don't want you just want sunshine and roses for your potential love interests, you just like nice, happy, healthy relationships, might not be the book for you. Also, if you are the kind of person that prefers a really cool, true magic system, this is not a magic system. If you've read this story, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you loved it or if you hated it, and if it's a book that you're wanting to pick up, let me know if you're planning to. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.